Let's take a look at how the auction markets fared over the weekend. The national clearance rate was at 80% from just over 1,400 auctions. Sydney had 406 auctions. The clearance rate there, 82%, so not too bad. There were also 1,449 private sales across New South Wales for the week. Melbourne had clearly the most auctions, 610. The clearance rate there just off a little bit, 81%. Normally that'd be pretty strong. Another 1,215 homes sold through private treaty. Brisbane had 31 auctions, a clearance rate just 64%, so low there. But a further 1,307 homes sold privately during the week. Adelaide had 76 auctions, the highest clearance rate of the country, 92%, plus another 359 homes sold through private treaty. And in Canberra, 81 auctions, a clearance rate 83% here, and another 75 private sales. Let's bring in here REA Group economist Anne Flaherty. And Anne, look, if there's more volume but clearance rates come off a little, that also suggests that price growth just might be cooling a little bit right now.
You're absolutely right. Last week was a very popular weekend to sell property, and we did see an enormous amount of properties come up for sale. And we also saw clearance rates a little lower than we saw them at the same time last year. Now, this increase in supply of properties for sale is part of the reason we're starting to see a little bit of a cooling pressure emerge in the property market. The fact that many people are anticipating that interest rates could rise this year is also probably factoring into that price growth. So if we look at actual prices, we have started to see those growth rates come down a little.
Yeah, because the problem was last year, a bit of FOMO, a bit of fear of missing out from buyers. They just wanted to get in at any price. But now, of course, if there's more choice on the market, they're going to be a bit more selective about not only what they buy, but what price they buy at.
You're absolutely right. We did see, far more demand last year than there were supply. So what we had was an extreme seller's market last year. So while selling conditions are still very strong, buyer demand remains really, really robust, we are seeing a bit more of a balanced market emerge.
But also, Anne, I'd imagine now a federal election is being called. It doesn't have much of an impact on the property market. It's really about, I guess, the levers, the economic levers afterwards, which is interest rates, wages, home affordability. All these key things are a part of the election campaign, but the election itself is really not going to have much impact.
Well, there aren't really any policies up for debate at the current election that are going to have a substantial impact on the property market. You know, in contrast to other years where we saw things like negative gearing up for debate, this time around, there aren't too many factors that are going to impact things. You know, we know that, people don't want to sell their property on the weekend of an election, but other than that, we don't really think that it's going to have that much of an impact this year.
It was interesting because I even heard this morning that Scott Morrison, Prime Minister, was being asked about housing affordability. He was talking about that, about the supply of houses that the government is trying to get into the marketplace, and also the support for first home buyers in particular. So these clearly, they know that politically that there is sensitivity around this issue.
Yes, and we've seen both parties actually look to address housing affordability from the perspective of those people looking to buy, particularly for first home buyers. So we are seeing, some benefits for first home buyers. Having said that, the amount of help that's being put out there for first home buyers is not going to actually meet demand. I think as well, there's been a lot talked about assisting people to, get into the market, but there hasn't been enough talked about supply. We have significant undersupply of properties. There just have not been enough new properties built to meet our growing population for well over a decade now. And with the current issues around construction costs, it's actually an extremely expensive, slow process, particularly at the moment with everything happening in the global economy, with supply chain issues. Increasing that supply of property is a challenge, and arguably the government should be doing more to try and increase this supply.